sometimes wild. And sometimes normal. Wild. Wild. Weird. And sometimes wild. Weird. Wild. Weird. Wild. Wild. And sometimes normal.
On this episode, I'm joined by Joshua Alvarez. Josh is a modern-day Renaissance man. He's the lead singer for Philly punk band Crossed Keys. He plays in a hardcore band. He has a cinema podcast called Cinepunks that has been running for 10 years. Josh is super cool, and we had a fun conversation. We were all over the map on this one. We discussed how he once got Lou Diamond Phillips on his pod, his sweet stage attire, how it's awesome and a little strange for people to interpret your lyrics to something personal for themselves, how Cross Keys got hooked up with Dave Hawes to open for him twice over 3 months. Spoiler alert, it's because Cross Keys is basically a supergroup of 20-year veteran punk rockers, and they know everybody, and their new album rocks. And it wouldn't be a wild and weird pod if I didn't tell my Hawes story and about my son getting on stage with him, or if I didn't mention Jaws. To be fair, both stories flowed in the topic of conversation. Anyway, huge shout out to Josh and Cross Keys. Listen to their album, follow all their socials, and check them out in concert. As always, let them know you heard them on Wild and Weird. Enjoy the show. Are you looking for CBD for your pet? My friends at Pure Pet Wellness have what you need. They use the highest quality ingredients. While other companies may use synthetic oils in their CBD, Pure Pet Wellness uses organic ingredients. Organically grown hemp, organic coconut oil, organic shea butter, organic beeswax, and that's just to name a few. A family-owned and operated company that also offers fast shipping. Go to purepetwellness.com for all your pet's CBD needs and use the discount code WILD and WEIRD at checkout. That's WILD, A-N-D, WEIRD. Treat your animal right. Go to purepetwellness.com. Are you looking to buy a home in New Jersey, escape the city and move to the suburbs? Finally purchase a vacation home on the lake or down the shore? Maybe you're one of the lucky ones who are retiring and moving out of state. If so, let me help you. Keller Williams and the Real Estate Professional Group have what you need to make your goals come true. Reach out and have a conversation with someone who will put you first. Contact Brian McCoach at 856-321-1212 or email brianmccoach@kw.com. Welcome to another episode of Wild, Weird, and Sometimes Normal. I'm your host, Brian. And tonight, my guest is Joshua Alvarez of the band Cross Keys. Welcome, Joshua.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Hey, man. Thanks a lot for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No sweat. Is this a new podcast? You've been doing this for not as long, or what?
So it's been going on for about 4 months or so.
How do you like it?
Whose interview is this, sir? Whose interview is this?
I'm just having a conversation with you, bro.
I enjoy it a lot. I like the hecticness of like the scheduling and trying to figure things out, like that constant dread. My show's constantly guest based. Nobody wants to hear me drone on for an hour or so. So it's like that constant of like, who's going to come on and what are we going to talk about? And then maybe like 2 minutes before an interview, I get a little bit of butterflies. But then once it starts, like there's no set question. I didn't send you anything, but there's no set questions. And we just have a normal talk and then wherever it goes. And as we were talking before I hit record, I kind of have like my finger on everything, jack of all trades, master of none. So, I can't get technical in the music you talk about, but I've seen hundreds of shows and gone all different places and like all different music. And then next thing you know, you'll mention, chicken or following the Eagles we were doing before the show. I'm like, oh, I've been to the Eagles. We did it here. And it gets crazy. But you, sir, you have a podcast as well. You're a fellow podcaster.
I am. Yeah. I'm a 10-year veteran.
Oh, I'm a rookie over here. I might get cut. Who knows? You sir. Going for the Hall of Fame. So 10 years. What's your show about?
My show is called Cinepunks, and it's the convection of movies and punk rock. Because, like, you know how they say, like, all rockers want to be comics and all comics want to be rock stars?
Right.
it's kind of the same thing with movies and punk rockers. I found like all punk rockers have a weird cinematic background, and all cinema people, well, not all, but there's a lot that are like, yeah, well, in '88, I was in a little band called the Bad Brains. You're like, what the fuck, bro? Like, word? And then it's like, it just seems weird because with such weirdly mutually exclusive lanes, it feels a lot of the times like most people really want to jump lanes and be like, yo, but here's the thing. Even though I'm in this band, I love this movie. And you're like, all right, God, just go for it.
Yeah.
So
do you think it's
yeah.
like the creative juices you have flowing, either from music and then they have from movies and like just somewhere in this creative mix of stew?
Well, I mean, the thing is, me and my podcast partner, Liam O'Donnell, we used to be in the Film Society together in Philadelphia. And we knew each other previously from being in the hardcore scene in Philly. So it was just like, what are you doing here, dude? You know what I mean? Like, that's the guy who cartwheeled out my friend Jeff Pelly. And next thing I know, 10 years later, he's like one of my best friends, and we've been working on this thing forever. We're not, I mean, like, for 10 years, we only had like 177 episodes, which I know, not a lot. I get it. But he lives in Chicago now. He has a kid, you know what I mean? I live here in Philly, and it's been like pandemic and everything. Like, that was pretty wild because we kept on going. So I don't know, but it's one of those things that seems indomitable. Like, I can't see it stopping anytime soon. And we have guests, but mostly it's just me and Liam talking shit. You know what I mean? Pretending to know what we're talking about. So,
So do you pick like one movie per episode and you're going to break it down?
Yeah.
Or
So right after we're done with this, I'm recording an episode of Cinepunks where we're discussing Federico Fellini's 8.5. So, it's like that. Like, there'll be a movie, like sometimes it'll be something new. Most times it's something pretty old that no one gives a shit about. And then we just talk about it until we're tired of talking to each other, which typically takes about 2.5 hours.
oh, well, so someone falls asleep or hangs up first, and you're like, I'm done.
It's just one of those things. It's like Liam knows so much because he took some classes in film, and I never took any film classes or anything. I'm just a fan. So he has like a bit of a sartorial voice, if you will. So he talks about it in a very academic way that I'm always like, what are you talking about? That's incredible. You know what I mean? Because I have no idea. So
has he ever made a film, or is that an interest to him?
I mean, does it count if you do like shitty promos for like local hardcore bands? Because
I think that's the only thing that counts.
Fair enough. Then yeah, he's totally a filmmaker. Yeah.
I think it's your creative juices flowing and you're filming it, and you can put it up and not be embarrassed or arrested about it a couple of weeks later. I think that's film.
I guess that.
And if you are, maybe it's more film. I don't know. Maybe.
Are you a film dude, Brian? Are you a film person?
No, I enjoy movies. I could say maybe I used to enjoy movies. The last few years, it's tough. It seems like if you don't like Marvel or you don't like superheroes, it's really hard to find a good movie. But I like movies, and I used to live in Pittsburgh for a little bit. And somebody who was on an earlier podcast, James Reinhart, he writes and directs independent horror films. So I had him on and picking his brain on that, and he was, I think, a PA on the Batman that had Bane.
Okay. One of those Christopher Nolan ones.
Yeah. So Christopher Nolan, and he got to help out, I guess, backstage with some of the stuff, and they put him in the stands when Bane blew up the Steelers Stadium, Heinz Field. Yeah. So it was interesting hearing him talk about it, and he wrote a short film called Black Pines, and it's about a Jersey Devil type of movie. So again, in the Pine Barrens, and then instead of it being like the monster, it was kind of turned you into the monster. We were all the monster at the end. I'm not too sure, but the little bit at the end of it, she's like battling the Jersey Devil. This is always a good movie and a good short. And it was interesting talking to him. Yeah, and I'm such not a film person like that, like where he was getting technical and detailed, and I enjoyed hearing about it. So then I was just asking him more, like, when you watch a regular movie, are you just picking it apart from being like a writer or a director? And then I was using like kind of like a sports analogy, like, are you the retired player? Like, oh my God, this guy's not making this cut, or this, like, you don't see, like, how do you not see this, or why would you deliver the line like that? But me, I don't have talent in that, so I podcast.
Fair enough, man.
Yeah,
it's like the old joke: those who can do and those who can't podcast about doing it. Isn't that the joke? There's something about it.
Teachers teach, or something other people do.
Those who can't do teach. Those who can't do, and those who can't teach. It's also a good joke.
Yeah,
I twisted it up there a little bit. I don't know if you caught that.
With our powers combined.
Mm. The puns are coming, baby. Puns
Yeah,
are coming.
don't worry. So 10 years ago, I mean, that's really early in the podcast game, pretty much. I mean, I think for the most part, some of the bigger guys nationally, like you're talking like 08, 09, so
Mhm.
13.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's funny. It's because it's kind of a heralded story at this point. But back then we were members of the Philadelphia Film Society, and we were the only people that were like tattooed, young, and not white. You know what I mean? And we got to this point, it just got really awkward being around like this hegemonic type of like population that would talk down to us because of how we looked and, and who we are, I suppose. And we are just like, you know what, man? Like, we quit the same day. We're just like, there's no way I can't go on with this anymore. Cause like, I don't know. It was like one of those things where me and Liam were just like, okay, so if you join the film society at a certain tier of membership, you get invited to all the screeners, but then they have all these parties and shit too. So we would try to like network throughout the party stuff just because it's like, I mean, neither of us really drink. Liam's straight edge still, you know what I mean? And it's just like we would just kind of hang out and try and talk to people, but we'd end up just talking to each other because it was just like, I don't know how we're going to grow this if these people don't feel like engaging us in these conversations. And then they used to do a thing at a certain level where when the Oscar movies would come out, they would do these private room screenings. So it'd be like 12 chairs in a room, and you would sit there with other like higher up members of the film society, watch these Oscar contenders throughout the week or a week before, and then it would be like a discussion. And one of the years was a movie called Amore. Do you know this movie?
I don't think so.
Yeah, no one does. It was like up for like best foreign movie. It was two old people, like a married couple, and they love each other so much. And then the husband smothers the wife with the pillow, and it takes 4 hours or 3 hours to tell the story. And at the end of it, we were walking out of the screening room, and this one old dude was like, "So, what do you think of the movie?" At which point, I was like, "Well, no Dumb and Dumber, but it was pretty cool." And then he looked at me and he was just like, "What's Dumb and Dumber?" And I was like, "You fucking liar. You're lying to me.
Yeah.
You don't know Dumb and Dumber with Jim Carrey. Get the hell out of here." And that was like the straw that broke the asshole's back. And I was just like, "I'm out. We're done with this." And like we left. And then Liam and I had this plan. We're like, well, if we keep recording ourselves talking about movies, maybe they'll stop asking us for money to go see movies. And that was like the main plan to try and get on like the press list. And we did. And it's been 10 years of that. So I don't know.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you're joining the film society, trying to watch some early movies. Now you can just probably get them on some streaming line that's hacked and just check that out. So screw you guys. And if they're not inviting you to the Eyes Wide Shut party, why are you going to this stuff anyway? You're like, guys, like, where is this stuff?
It's more so the interview opportunities, if you can believe it or not, just because like, so there's like a company in the greater Philadelphia area that handles all the press stuff. And if you're on that list, then they'll invite you to do the interviews with the directors and the actors and all this other shit. So that was the one main thing that I was like, well, I need to get on that list if we're going to keep on doing this thing. So kind of where we're at.
That's awesome, man. So do you get to talk to any of these people now that you're on the press list?
Every so often. Like, so more so like, okay, well, probably our most famous guest that we've ever had on, not counting the world of punk rock, because like, when you're involved in the scene, like me and Liam have been kind of like participating in the New York, New Jersey, like Philadelphia music scene for like the better part of 30 years, right? And Liam used to work at This Is Hardcore, so he would know like a lot of those people and stuff. But maybe 2 years ago, I was in Arizona for 2 months because I just lost a job. My wife was working remote, and she was just like, well, if you're not working and I'm working from home, we might as well be warm. So we went to Arizona. We were in Phoenix. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next because at that point, I had just been fired from a job of 20 years working in psych, which is like, it was fucked up during the pandemic, but it also was just messed up anyway. So I was in Arizona trying to figure out what next. And I got really stoned because I enjoy marijuana, which I didn't start until my 40s. And I tweeted at Lou Diamond Phillips, and then he came on our show and he did a half-hour interview with us. And it was really, really funny because I was raised on La Bamba. I was raised on Young Guns. You know what I mean? I was like, yo, LDP, half Filipino, down with the brown. So we got to talk to him. It was really funny.
That is so cool.
It's ridiculous, I'll tell you, because I told him in the tweet that I was high. And yeah, his press people got in touch with us, and then he was on our show. Like, all right, sure, that's a thing.
Usually sometime throughout a podcast, like social media will come up, and usually it's treat social media like your diet. Like if you just eat junk food the whole time, it's terrible for you. And if you're just stuck on Twitter or Instagram or whatever it is and just reading all the nonsense, now maybe your feeds or whatever, your lists are curated a little better than mine. Mine is just constant chaos. And it's like, oh my God, it's like aliens and politics and then music, and it's just all over the place. But through Twitter, I reached out to you guys, and next thing you know, like I'm getting in contact with you, and it's just so cool, the positive things that can happen through Twitter when it's not like melting your brain.
What's funny is that I don't run any of the social media for any of my projects because I'm old, Brian. I'm 45 goddamn years old, and I feel every moment of it. You know what I'm saying? So like I've been trying to just take all this bullshit off of my phone, and every time Liam will yell at me. Like one time I made my Twitter feed private, and he's like, "Why are you going dark, man? You got to stay visible." It's like, fuck, man. And then like all the Instagram stuff I've been in a lot of bands, and most of these bands have had social media presences. And in each case, I've never once contributed or controlled them. It's always been somebody else in the band, And the weird thing is, especially with something like Cross Keys, whenever anyone interacts with the Cross Keys account, they think they're talking to me because I wrote all the words. But no, man, not me at all. Didn't even know. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's funny too, because Andrew, the bass player, is the one who answers everything. And he's actually the smartest person in our band, even though he's also the youngest, which I guess those things go hand in hand. And his little joke is that he answers all the questions in what he considers to be my voice, which I find to be very amusing. Yeah. He'll tell me about these things afterwards. I'm like, whatever you want to do, bro. It's on you.
Yeah. Just tell me when and where, and am I getting a paycheck? I can't tell you. The answer is there's no paycheck in this. I don't know if he told you that or not.
Yeah, never, not once have we seen one paycheck. That'll be an interesting day. Yeah, that's cool.
So I've definitely turned into my parents, where in the '80s, Nintendo's out and everything, and they don't know how to work it, and here I am, like 5, 6, 7 years old, and figuring it all out and hooking it up, and they have the remote to the cable and the VCR, and hook all that up and put it in the one universal remote you got at Walmart or whatever. And now I'm 42 now. Technology that this is even running is a miracle. That anything over a Word document is like beyond me. My son wants to do things. I'm like, Bud, man, I wish. I have no clue what you're talking about. Can you just sync this and then download it? I'm like, no, sorry, don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's away from us. I don't know anything about that stuff. It's bad.
So for the pod, I've been thinking about merchandise. Like I just put the logo on a T-shirt or something, but I don't want to have a garage full of T-shirts, and I'm not going to go to the post office. Like I don't have time for that. So I was Googling what you can do, and there's a way to do like a drop ship through, I forget the name of the company, but you pick out your own T-shirt online and do all this drop shipping. But then there's and so I don't store any product. I don't make the T-shirt. I don't ship the T-shirt. They handle customer service. They ship it. They do all this stuff. I probably get like a penny for every T-shirt. Upload the design and do stuff like that. It seems simple. But then there's a 2-hour YouTube video to walk idiots like me through it. I don't have 2 hours to watch YouTube and like try to figure this out. So for the last 4 months, I'm like, tomorrow I'm going to figure out how to do dropship T-shirts and stickers. And now I don't know. I might start hand drawing something. I'm not too sure.
Hey man, whatever works, baby. You know what I'm saying?
It's tough. It's tough. So you guys went to Arizona for 2 months. That's pretty sweet. That
it was a wild time, I gotta say. Saw a lot of shit.
COVID was obvious, all the bad things for COVID that there were, but I think some of the good things were that families got to get a little tighter if they like that, where you were trapped with your family for a couple of years, and take that how it is. But the fact that you were able to get up and go, like that's pretty sweet.
It was a devastating time is the issue because like I said, I worked in psych, so I worked in inpatient acute psych, which is like typically the more violent type of character, and it was a year and a half of pandemic working under that type of stress, and I was not prepared. And then just, I don't know if like hospitals are fucked up places to be, you know what I mean? Shit can go wrong in a moment, and the next thing you know, your entire plan for the past 20 years is like gone. And that's kind of what happened to me, It was fucked up because like I was floundering. I thought I was going to retire there. You know what I mean? Like, and I truly did believe in this calling to help the sick and the poor. And it's like in my neighborhood is this hospital, you know what I mean? And it was like the people in these streets that I live in, you know? And I was trying to help people get their families back together. I wanted to believe that people could be helped through things like addiction, helped through things like mental illness. Now I'm just a capitalist. So it's way better than being an altruist. Like I have so much more fun now. So that's cool. And it's like I clock out and then that's the end of the party. We're done. I'll see you tomorrow. It's a new story for me. You know what I mean? So I'm into it.
No, that's awesome,
cool.
man. All the people doing, like that, they'll say like God's work, like doing the stuff like that, the volunteering, the working with psych patients. My wife does nursing and stuff like that. It's a thankless job, man. It's thankless.
Yeah, man.
People, they're in their worst moments and they need a ton of help. But also, like, you guys aren't saviors. And you're like, man, like, I need help. And also, I can't, like, I'm not the person to fix you. I'm just trying to help you on your journey to get fixed. But it's not happening in my 8-hour shift. And don't yank on me and don't, like, whatever it is. And like, I'm not the person to get spit at or screamed. Like, really, thankless job. It takes really special people to do that.
It's a shit job. We used to have a show on the Cinepunks network called Helping the Helpers. And it was our friend Dana, who's an actual therapist. And the show's thesis was that nobody that's working in the healthcare fields wants to stay there. So the idea was that she would help people transition out of caregiving positions into other jobs. And it made it for like a little bit, but then she started her own practice and she got real busy. So I know it was like one of those, like, it's there when she's ready to come back. And I hope that she does, because it was a really good show. But it's also like, it's not like we're paying people. We can't pay people to do shit because we don't get money, So it's like, I can't be like, come back, please, So it's cool. But it was a good thesis for a show. So
no, that's good. You need to watch the 2-hour YouTube video so you guys can drop ship merch and then make money. And then when you figure out how to do it, let me know how to do it a lot easier.
We have a pretty strong merch game to the point where people thought that Cinepunks was a t-shirt company for like the first 5 years that we were a show. So the thing is, we have a lot of friends that are screen printers, you know what I mean? Whenever we have like these stupid ideas, people are like, we'll print them for you. And the next thing you know, we're like, yo, we should do like, and that's the thing, man. It's Cinepunks, right? So it's like pretty obscure stuff a lot of the time, and not too many people care that we have a Holy Mountain Cinepunks t-shirt, you know what I mean? That's themed after the original Jodorowsky art. Like, no one cares, And it's like, so now we have these boxes of t-shirts. But then Liam's house in Chicago, so it's cool. I don't
much better, man.
Yeah, much easier, I promise.
I lived out in Chicago for 2 years, and that is the most fun city. North Side Chicago, most fun city. I'm sure South Side, is just as fun. North Side, fun city, clean, public transportation, living in the Philadelphia area. A bus, like, I'm probably not going to jump on it. The trains are fine, SEPTA and all that stuff. The trains, they're not as a horror story as you'll see some other places. But Chicago was always pristine. Like, regular people on there. Didn't smell like pee. I was like, how do you guys do this? Like, Philadelphia, like, that's like part of the payment to get on there. You piss in the corner and It was always nice.
I don't know. I've only been to Chicago 3 times now. 2 of the times was for Riot Fest. And it was because the first time was because The Cure was playing. I had to see The Cure because that's like my favorite band. And then the second time was because Avail was doing their reunion shows. And that was one of them. And that's like my favorite hardcore band of all time. So it was like, I went to Virginia. I went to Richmond for their first reunion show. And then I went to Riot Fest for that, just to see them. And those are really, really fun. Have you ever been to a Riot Fest in Chicago?
Yes, I think it's like in Humboldt Park, which is about 2 blocks, 3 blocks from where I was. And the first year we were there, I don't think Rez was playing there. Then the second year, that was the year we decided to get married on that weekend. And Gaslight Anthem was playing that weekend. I was like, oh, I'm going. Then they weren't there. And then I guess we were gone by the next one. So I didn't get to go.
Oh, man.
But it was, normally Humboldt Park will have some stories or the park in Humboldt Park. Sometimes there's some little turf war going on. And I was like, is this really great? And everyone's like, no, it's safe during this time. You can definitely go. I was like, great. That's 3 blocks that way. And I was very excited for it. But I had to get married. And I was like, do I stay married? No. I made the right choice.
Gotta do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to C2E2 out there?
No, I don't know that one.
That's the Comic Book and Entertainment Expo.
Oh, okay. No, I've never been to one of those. Do you go to those?
So the last time I used to work with a dude named Mark Beamer. And he used to do a company called Shirts for a Cure. You know about this?
No.
At all? So it started out as like a hardcore like punk thing where bands would give exclusive designs to Beamer, and then he'd print them on T-shirts, and then all the proceeds from those designs would go to something like 4 or 5 specific breast cancer institutions in the country, particularly ones that are serving less served populations, right? So like poorer ones and stuff.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
then it was like Warped Tour, like that was the whole thing. It went for like something like 19 years. And the last couple years of that was at New York Comic Con, and he transitioned from band T-shirts because really, not too many people care if you have a Texas is the Reason T-shirt. You know what I mean? More people cared if you had a Doctor Who T-shirt. So then we started doing just nerd shirts for New York Comic Con, and like that went on up until maybe 2019. And then that year we went to C2E2, and the very next week pandemic shut everything down. But that was like the last time I was in Chicago. And their comic book expo, way different than the New York one, I gotta say. So, maybe not as like big spatially, but my God, it was lawless. It was wild.
Yeah,
We had a great time. Yeah.
that's
Super
awesome.
fun.
It's a shame that not single out the nerds here, but the nerds are taking over Doctor Who. That's more. I guess maybe there's a wider range you can do where
Yeah.
if you're just selling
It's
the
a
punk
thing.
shirts. Sometimes the guys who listen to it grow up and or whatever, like, oh, I can't wear that. I have to wear, whatever it is. And yep, sucks
Well,
to be them. They should still wear it.
we made a lot more money doing the nerd stuff is the case. You know what I mean? Like we would say it wasn't just Doctor Who, it was also Stranger Things and Star Wars, like the entire gamut of ephemera relating to a Comic-Con situation was there.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Your slice of pie is bigger, I think, going for
Yeah,
quote unquote
for sure.
The nerd part there. We're coming back though. Let's grow the punk rock one. Let's get that back. Let's do a hybrid, like a Doctor Who and Cross Keys T-shirt or something. Him wearing one.
Listen, so I have a tattoo appointment in 2 weeks, I think, where I'm getting Animal from the Muppets,
Yeah.
but he's going to be wearing a Cross Keys T-shirt because so Dave Wagonsheets, who plays drums in Cross Keys, he did a podcast or something, and someone asked him, like, so who's your most influential drummer? And they presented Bonham or Moon, and he was just like, Animal. So I wanted to get a tattoo of Animal wearing a Cross Keys T-shirt, and he's going to say, Cross Keys believe in you. This is really
I love
funny.
it.
That's my tribute to Dave Wagonsheets, because he's one of the greatest punk rock drummers of all time, in my opinion. And he's in my band, so why wouldn't I get a tattoo of him? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you gotta celebrate that. And so then you put that on a T-shirt, and that's the combo we're talking about right here.
There it is, man. I can offer 15% of every shirt. You got it. No one cares. That's what you see. We've made so many cool T-shirts with Cross Keys, and I just feel like we present them, and the general public at large is like, "Thank you, but no, thank you." Like, fuck.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Need better marketing or something. We'll think of something. These are out there. People have to have them.
When I worked at the hospital for 20 years, I used to just hand out T-shirts from having done merch tables for bands for the same amount of time that I worked there, if not longer. So there is a literal army of people in these streets of North Philadelphia walking around in the finest accoutrement from merch tables across the country from 1996 to 2002. Yeah, it's real weird. So, I don't know. A lot of them were Morrissey shirts too, though. So,
okay. Yeah. When your buddy's doing the fundraiser, then like a guy wants to get the T-shirt, and he's like, "Well, I just saw this other guy struggling with addiction on the side of the street begging for money, and should we have the exact same T-shirt?" And you're like, I don't know. Yeah, but why not, right? It brings people together.
Good.
Yeah,
I think it's funny. Yeah, man, all about it. That's my shit. What kind of music do you listen to? Like, what's your steez?
So I grew up like a Warped Tour kid and stuck with that for a long time, and like the like Real Big Fish and the ska and Boss Tones and stuff like that. Then what did I transition to? I guess I stuck with that for the longest time, honestly. And then Gaslight Anthem picked up, and I think where I really found you guys was the Sing Here Now Fest, the Dave Hawes Fest that he did. And then no, so I had tickets for Gaslight Anthem and the Long Beach Dub All Stars the week after, and since I have 2 kids, I kind of have to pick and choose. Where I'm going. It's not the good old days of like I get to go every show. So for that I had to pass. But then so I saw you guys are coming up for the New York City show, and I'm trying to score a babysitter for that. So then shoot my wife up there and we'll go check that out. So your show coming up, this is a rough transition here. Your show coming up with Hawes you guys are going on a cruise. It's a cruise ship. It's like a 3-hour tour. It's like a Gilligan's Island.
The last time I was on a boat was in 7th grade. And we went on a whale watching trip in Bar Harbor, Maine, because my parents had this like, we're going to see whales. Cool. I ended up throwing up all over the place and didn't see a whale. So that was the last time I was on a boat. So this shit is going to be weird, is the point of my story. Yeah, I have no idea.
Are you worried about getting seasick? It doesn't go that fast, but still.
Yeah, I'm worried about getting attacked by a whale. But no, man, I fucking hate boats, man. I'm not that dude. But it's also like, what am I going to do? Not play? Like, that's dumb too. So fuck it. We're just going to go for it. And come what may, I have no idea what's going to happen. So we'll see.
Wear floaties, and this way, in case if the boat starts going down, you don't have to go find the life vest. Like you're preset.
I mean, I could swim. It's just the throwing up on motion sickness business that I'm not trying to have happen to me. You know what I mean?
Last weekend, I organized a fishing trip for my son and his buddies and some dads in the neighborhood. So we went down to Wildwood Crest and went out of there. And the last couple of years, we did bay fishing out of Margate. And this one was like a giant 100-person, like the group fishing thing, whatever.
Okay.
We didn't have 100 people. It was just a 100-person boat. And, they give you the bait and the rods and all that good stuff. And when I've gotten seasick before going out in these big things, but I was much younger. And then I started taking Dramamine a little bit, but it made me so tired. Right. So if I'm driving or with my kids, like I don't be slurry or falling asleep, especially hour and a half drive, whatever it is. So I went on Amazon and they had these like Chinese acupressure pressure points, little
like the
wristbands.
Stuff?
Yeah. So just this little plastic dot. And I wore it. I was out there for 4 hours, did not get seasick at all. My son did not get seasick. A kid on the boat, he was a little bit older than my son. He took the Dramamine and was not handling it well. So I was like, well, this kid's like struggling and I feel pretty good. Let me take these bracelets off. He was up and fishing in 30 minutes. I didn't get seasick, but I definitely noticed a difference from taking them off than having them on. But I was able to ride it out and, stay strong. And then this kid was able to get up and fish and catch stuff. So You should check in these little voodoo bracelets that you put on and you don't have to worry about anything.
Duly noted. I will 100% look into it.
Yeah. And so you're talking about afraid that like a whale is going to eat you. I've been so traumatized by Jaws that even sitting out there, we're off the Cape May Point and you can see the beach. And like I wasn't a high school swimmer or college, any of that, but I know how to swim. And I'm like, well, if this went down, I could definitely swim to there. It's not that far. Like, I'm pretty sure my son probably could swim that far. It would have been fine. But then I started going down in the water. I'm like, man, there's fucking sharks in here. I know there's a shark under our boat just waiting for me. I can't handle it. No.
Yeah, it's too much. Yeah.
Dude, no, people who go scuba diving intentionally down, like you're going into their realm. They love water.
There's a Gil Scott Heron bit about that in one of his live records where he talks about he's the only person that was rooting for Jaws. He's like, yeah, if Jaws was walking around in Harlem, then yeah, fuck that guy. But since I'm walking around in his supermarket, dude, if you haven't listened to any of those live Gil Scott Heron recordings,
I'm going to have to check that out.
So good.
Yeah, he didn't come into your house. You're in his house.
Yeah, it's true. There you go.
You're littering shit. You're throwing barrels in his backyard. He's like, dude, get it the fuck out. Good. I'm glad he should have ate more of them. I hope they make another one. Get them all. And even stupid Sharknado or whatever, that stupid one. And I was hooked for all
like
10
of those. Yeah,
I love all
so many.
Fucking stupid.
Oh, sweet baby Jesus, it's a lot. It's a lot of cinema, man. Just saying.
I saw Hasselhoff was in there, but sold. I can't wait. Sold. I'm watching it. So fucking nuts, man.
Man, that's great.
Have you done an episode on Sharknado? No?
We have not. We have not. I will add it to the list.
It's kind of bottom of the list, I feel. It's not getting bumped for anything.
I don't know if you know, man, like I love, like, don't get it twisted. I never went to school for film, but I've seen a lot. Like I've seen a lot of French New Wave, Czech New Wave movies. I love a lot of surrealist film. I love, Akira Kurosawa. Like I love all that shit. But I also have a Fast and the Furious tattoo. So you tell me, what is cinema? I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? All I know is what I like.
Just living your life a quarter mile at a time over there. That's it.
Not even a little bit, bro. That's just what it is. It's a good style.
That's awesome, man. I haven't seen maybe the last 2 or 3. I haven't seen, but the other ones were amazing. And I'll get back on. I know 10 just came out, so I guess I saw 8. So I missed 9 and 10. I'll have to catch up on those.
You need to see 9. but 10 is essential, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still like, okay, so Fast X came out this year, as did John Wick 4, right?
John Wick 4 came out, yeah.
Yeah.
It just came out to rent now.
Dude, I think John Wick is my favorite movie franchise of all time, but Fast X had the best villain in any movie ever in Jason Momoa. So I don't know, man. I think John Wick might have just won just by a little bit, but we have 2 more Fast movies, so who's to say? I'll
They're
wait
going to
until the whole
12?
thing is done.
Dude, they're not going to stop.
Well,
This is going to be like the Expendables. They're going to merge that together.
they said that this is going to be the last one, which is why it's like a 2-parter or 3-parter. So, I mean, it ended on a cliffhanger. Pretty great, gotta say.
Well,
it's a thing.
Not to be negative here, but of course it ended on a cliffhanger, so they keep making more.
Yeah,
so there was a Stephen King show. It was called Under the Dome, and I read the book on it. And this show's now 10 years old. I don't know, 8, 10 years old, or whatever. Under the Dome. One day the city just walks out, and there's a dome around their city, and they can't get out. And the book's pretty good. It's easy. It's not scary. It's just a good book. Flip through. It's great. You get to the end. Kind of stupid. Whatever. So they're going to do a miniseries. Like, we're going to 8 episodes. I was like, great. I'll check out these 8 episodes. After episode 3, like, all right, 13 episodes. Then halfway through that, they're like, all right, season 2. The second they smelled more money, they're like, yep, print. There were episodes in there. Such bullshit. Did nothing. Just wasted time. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
That's too bad.
They should come out. All these shows should come out and tell you.
Stephen King properties, though?
What's that?
Stephen King properties always lose steam halfway through for me, except for The Shining. And like,
The Stand was really good. The original The Stand, that 2-parter.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. And the Langoliers movie, I remember.
Langoliers were pretty good. Yeah.
Not bad. Yeah. The short stories. I mean, well, no, The Stand was. I read the book for The Stand. It took me like a month.
The original It was awesome. The newer one's not bad, but the original one was awesome.
Well, Tim Curry, you know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do? Like, that's just iconic. I did love the Anthony Machete ones, though. Like, I thought they were good. So, did you like them? Did you enjoy the newer?
I did enjoy those. But if I had to pick, I would pick the older ones.
You'd go Tim Curry, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
But I thought the new ones were good. But maybe it's just one of the first things that creeped me out, and it's like I had
like
special place for me.
Stuff going on. Yeah, I get it. Those lifelong memories. That's my favorite.
I remember Candyman. I started watching it the one night, and I had to stop it. I was like, this is, I was probably 10 or something when it came out. I'm like, man, I can't handle this. And then the next day I got home from school, and I remember opening the blinds, pulling the shades up, also just bright light coming in. I stood in the middle of my living room and finished watching it. Didn't even sit down. I just stood the whole time and just watched the rest of Candyman. Great movie there too.
Fucking movie. Yeah.
And the new one, the new one was watchable, but not the first one. Like that was so fucking good.
Yeah, that first one. I mean, dude, Virginia Madsen's in there. Like, she's so awesome. And what's his name? He was in the remake of Night of the Living Dead, the 1990 Tom Savini one. The black dude. What's his name?
Yeah, I can't think of his name.
Anyway, did you see that Tom Savini remake of Night of the Living Dead?
I definitely think so. It's not coming to my head any details.
Dude, that and The Thing are my 2 favorite horror remakes of all time. All time. I love
Standing by those, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Another Stephen King one, though, so The Mist. The very end of The Mist is the most fucked up 10 minutes of a movie ever. The last 5 minutes or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that movie.
You have to retract your hate for Stephen King. Maybe you're just talking about the miniseries.
I know.
But
you know what it is? The first movie that ever scared the bullshit out of me was Maximum Overdrive, because I was 10 years old also. And it was one of those, he directed it. It's the only movie he directed. And I was at a sleepover that night at my friend Bad Michael's house, who I'm still friends with. And the movie fucked me up so bad that I just left and walked home in the middle of the night. But again, I was like a 5th grader, and I didn't have a key to my house because we were just staying at Uncle Rudy's house, who's Bad Michael's dad, And I had to wake my dad up at 2 a.m, knocking on our fucking door because of Maximum Overdrive. And then when I got 4 years older, I was like, this movie is dumb. And I think I might be stupid because this scared the shit out of me. You know what I mean? It was one of those moments. So fuck a Stephen King. But that's not true. I can't. You're right. I love Stand By Me. What do you want from me? You know what I mean?
Even the stuff that you forget. The Running Man. That was a Stephen King short story. Yeah, that was great too. Yeah.
Do you know about my shirts for cross keys?
I don't think so. Let's hear it.
So
Are they
one of
based
my
on Stephen King?
no, one of my best friends is the tailor for a little pop star named Rihanna. So her
Wow.
gig is she tours with Rihanna all the time, but she's still straight edge, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't party. So Cross Keys has been a band now for 7 years. In that time, for every single show that I've ever played, Grace makes me a button up floral shirt when she's on tour. So I'm the only person in my band that gets these custom made floral shirts from the tailor of Rihanna. And everyone else in the band is like, they wear shorts and t-shirts and are covered in tattoos and have hair, some of them. And I'm the only one that looks like I'm in a Brit rock band from the 90s in our band, which is weird. But it's also like in my mind, it's hard to imagine that anyone would want to listen to us. Which is fucked up to say, and I get that. I apologize to my bandmates, but you know how it is when you're raised with like a poor sense of self, poor self-esteem kind of thing, and like it's always like as a child of I'm a first generation Filipino here, right? And a lot of my growing up experiences were like you're now like the standard bearer for the progeny of all these people that emigrated here, right? So like all of our contemporaries, because like my parents and their friends all moved here in the same year in 63. They all had kids at the same time, and that was my first set of friends. And the impetus behind all of our rearing was to become like doctors and fucking lawyers and all this shit. And some of us did, but me and my brother are the only ones that are covered in tattoos. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we worked in the hospital, but we weren't doctors. And like, now I work in a tattoo removal company. You know what I mean? But I still sing for a punk band. I still play bass in other hardcore bands. You know what I mean? And like, I look at all like the kids that we grew up with, and it's like they're happy, I guess, but not by their own definition. Whereas I was always raised to like doubt wanting to play guitar instead of wanting to play basketball, or doubt wanting to go into a creative like career as opposed to like some type of like clinical or technical or like just outwardly difficult because of some type of academia like thing. You know what I mean? So like being a singer in a band and being the focal point is like fucked up already. And then having to deal with like all like this other stuff. But then Grace makes me these shirts and it feels like I'm wearing armor. You know what I mean? And that's already like how we get through it. You know what I'm saying? I went on a tangent. I'm sorry about that. I don't even know where I was going with that.
All of that I like. So I lived in Philadelphia for a couple of years, but for the most part, Jersey. So the only thing, if you're from New Jersey, you have to like New Jersey music. So it's like, Bruce Springsteen and Gaslight Anthem, love them, let's go. But the only thing Jersey people, like the next thing they love is Philadelphia bands. So I hear you guys, and I like punk rock and everything, and I'm like, dude, this is fucking good. And, I'm old. So anything new or that I'm just hearing, for just coming out in the last couple of years, for the most part, I'm like, hey, no, if it didn't come out from like 2010 before, probably not interested. So I hear this, great. So I'm listening to you guys, and you guys are the complete package. Like I think that you sound great on there. I think the music sounds great. I think what you're saying is great, and reignites that fire in that kid who was like at the Wachovia Center and in the Camden parking lots and like whatever it is. Like, oh man, this is the music that I love. That I have a hard time finding. I guess I could have stream it on Alexa or do YouTube, things that are kind of just beyond me. But a little research, I might maybe get my son to help me find the music that I like. But I'm also kind of like that old dog, and I kind of like what I like, and I'm sticking with the bands that I know. But I've been listening to you guys a lot since that May festival you were on to, and I was able to start streaming you guys. Like, you guys are fucking good.
Thank you. It's nice of you to say, man.
You guys, hey, you do a great job. Not that I can relate to what you do. My job isn't doing anything with it. So I have a lot of things from your little tangent. So I work a regular 9-to-5 job. It is so
what do you do?
Unfulfilling. Do
what is
fiscal type of things for state government.
Oh, okay.
It is
all right.
Painfully boring. It's Excel sheets.
I get it.
Yeah. There's no, not that I'm like on the verge of a midlife crisis, but there's no excitement in that. So I get my excitement like through my family and through my friends and things that I want to do. And this podcast, I was like, wow, this is a great outlet. But when I was maybe in 2017 or 18, I wrote a book. My son was like, oh, Mom, what do you do? And she's like, oh, I'm a nurse. And he's like, great, that's great. He's like, Dad, what do you do? And I was like, well, I do like fiscal budget stuff. He's like, what? I'm like, I stare at Excel. He's like, what? I was like, I type in dollars into a spreadsheet and that's it. And he just blank stare at me and moves on. So I was like, shit, like I gotta do something. There's something in me that I have to be able to do. So I started writing a book, and I thought of like a fourth grade spy, and I used his name, and I made it all like the GI Joe type of stuff that like the cartoons like we grew up with. Like nobody really gets hurt,
Yeah.
and there's some action and stuff. So I ended up writing 3 books. I wrote a trilogy and got it out. And when I first published it,
Shit.
when I first published it was a shit, and I've cleaned it up a lot since then. I've had some help with editors. It probably could still be a lot better, but putting it out there that first time, even through now, knowing that people are reading like shit that I thought of, like conversations that I put between characters that all came from my head, like that's fucking weird, man. Like that's not
fucking amazing, though,
yeah,
bro. Dude,
put yourself
that's
out there.
So cool.
Yeah, well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I think singing is so fucking cool, but you're up there. But also, like, you kind of have like these little eyes, like judging you, right? Isn't that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awful. Like, here's the thing, man. Like, I mean, I know I participate in a lot of like outward-facing projects and stuff like that, but for the most part, I'm relatively a private individual. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really do well with social media. I don't do well with anything like that. But for Krosky's, like, so I wrote this record when I was in Arizona. And like, it was hard because I was away from the rest of the fellas for the 2 months that we were away. But also, I was just writing because I didn't know what else was going to happen in my life. You know what I mean? So these lyrics come from the darkest part of my life to date. Like, legitimately, like, I didn't even know what was going to happen. And then you're staring down the barrel of like, well, am I just going to be a burden on those who love me? You know what I mean? Like, is that what it is? Like, and then, my brother still works at the hospital, so it's like, well, now he's there, and like, that sucks. Like, now like there's this like element of shame being like, so how's it going at the job? You know what I mean? Like, that fucking conversation. So to realize that people are hearing what I was thinking about and writing, and then to have like, a lot of people have reached out to me in regards to the content of the lyrics, and I'm always happy to do my best to help, because you can't change those stripes. You know what I mean? Like, if that's just who you are, you're just always going to try and help people. And despite being a true capitalist now, because I just work for money, it's one of those, that's the currency that really makes being in any type of project worth it for me. That I can talk to people that'll say like, yeah, I know what you're talking about here. And sometimes they don't, which is the best part. Like, my one friend, there was a song on one of the first EPs that had the chorus of, I can't talk about the stars. I don't know anything about them. And he was like, dude, that's the most romantic line. I used it in my, what I got engaged to my wife now. It's like, dude, it was the greatest thing. And I was like, yeah, that song is about sitting in a mental hospital in the TV room while you're watching daytime television where they're talking to stars that I have no idea about. Thus the line, I can't talk about the stars. I don't know anything about them. And he's like, oh, it's in our wedding ring. I'm like, cool. And I'm glad that I could help, but whatever you take from it, bro, it's all good, So, but it's funny because it's like, again, these dark thoughts that I had during that time are now part of public record, and people sing them back to us at shows, and it's like, fuck, man, that was a weird time, But
yeah, they take it to be their meaning, though. This is like the Can't Hardly Wait, and he wants to find Mandy, then Amanda, and then Mandy comes in. He wrote about his dog, man. But hey, your friend found romance in the lyric.
Yeah, I'll take it. It's just funny though, like that those records were just getting our feet wet. You know what I mean? Like, Savior is a little bit more poignant in terms of like lyrical content and what I wanted to say, but this is the most open. Belize in You is the most open I've ever been in any project. So it's been it's been a rough road to get it out, and now that it's out, we're all just like, and it's cool, but it's also like, we've just started writing for LP number 3 now. So now what do I write about? You know what I mean? It's like, there's still more. I still got, more in the tank, but it's also just like, it's already intimidating. And now you got to do it again, but better than the last time.
So now you have to go quit this job and go maybe Wisconsin or something?
I guess. I don't know, man. Go anywhere, I suppose. Can we see movies there? I'm good with it. Let's do it.
Yeah, you can stream anywhere. You're fine.
Are you coming to our show next weekend?
And so I'm going to try for the New York City one, and then you have one in September in Philly. So I'm definitely going to make that. So Wednesday, I think, during the week. So I'll definitely be able to make that one.
This Saturday is in Asbury Park with Town Liar. Do you know that band?
Off the top of my head, I don't know them.
It's Benny from Gaslight Anthem's new band.
Oh, yeah? I have a family party on Saturday.
Yeah, we're in Asbury Park with them. It's
But it's
funny
at night
because
though, right? You're playing at night?
no, it's 5 to 9. So yeah, it's
Oh.
the band is cool because it's Benny from Gaslight Anthem on drums, and then Nick Ramondelli from he was in I Hate You and a bunch of other like Philadelphia like seminal bands. He's playing guitar in that band. And then Jay Shevchuk, he used to sing for Kid Dynamite, and he sings for None More Black. He sings for that band too. So it's like a weird super group. Like it's like the ground floor, you know what I mean? So pretty cool.
That's awesome.
You're
I play
you're
at
from
Rains,
New
and
Jersey?
then I'm from New Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Cherry Hill. Did you know that?
Oh no, I did not know that. No. So currently
Yeah,
I live in Medford.
yeah, when you said that in the email, I was like, oh yeah, I know where that is.
Yeah.
So I used to, yeah, I had a girlfriend that lived in Medford Lakes at the time, and it was a wild place to be. So yeah, I don't know, not very much sun. That's all I can remember. So,
Not a lot of sun. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Cherry Hill lived in Wexford Lees for a year.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So that I went to Stockton grade school. So that was third grade, I think. And then a bunch of people in my neighborhood now are all from the Cherry Hill area. And if, like somehow my neighborhood is all 40 somethings with like 2 kids and a picket fence. And so we all get together and like we're all about the same age. Like, oh, Cherry Hill. And you know, I went to Sterling High School, which is in Summerdale. So right down the street from Cherry Hill.
Right.
But yeah, that's awesome. So you were in bands in high school too?
No, I didn't start playing in bands till after college. Actually, I went to school in Elizabeth. I went to school to be a high school teacher, believe it or not. And I went to school in Elizabeth, and then I taught in Linden for a little bit. But I also worked at Vintage Vinyl for like 5 or 6 years, something like that, like a long time. And when I got out of school, I played in a band with my manager from Vintage Vinyl called George is Dead. And we used to play at the Melody Bar in New Brunswick a lot. And we played in like at the Fast Lanes in Asbury, like that kind of band. So it was fun. But yeah, I didn't start playing till after college. So, but at the time I lived with Chris, who used to play in Ensign, you know what I mean? And like, so I used to do a bunch of the New Brunswick shows and used to go to New York a lot. Like that was like, I mean, Philly was always home, but like the Central Jersey scene, like I knew Benny when he was in Dilemma, when he was like 16 years old. You know what I mean? Like we've known all those people for a very long time, and it's really funny to be playing with them now. So
that's so cool.
I'm into it.
What took so long for you to get started? And I guess what was that bravery of it, of getting started that late?
Well, I thought I was going to be a teacher, right? Like my mom's a nurse and my dad was a high school teacher. So, but he taught like speech and drama, you know what I mean? So I was like, well, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. And again, like, you know, survivalist mentality doesn't really leave much room for like, oh, this is the thing that feeds your soul. You know what I mean? So through all of college, and like I did 2 majors, right? So it took me 5 years to finish. And then like I taught for 2 years. So there's like a 7-year period of my life when I just didn't touch a guitar, didn't do anything, just went to shows, but didn't like write or anything like that. And then Dave, who plays guitar in Cross Keys, he was my best friend in 7th grade, and we've been friends ever since. And he was just like, he called me one day and was like, dude, you're living in North Jersey with none of your family, none of your friends, and we're all here in Philadelphia chilling. Why don't you just come home? And I was like, yeah, why don't I just come home? So then I did. And then that's when I started playing, because me and Dave were in a band called Hey Angel for a long time. So that was like my first, well, I started 2 bands when I moved back to Philly, and that was one of them. The other one was a band called Belagost, and that was like a post-rock instrumental, like a Godspeed You Black Emperor kind of band, but it was with all punks. So it was me and like dudes from Crucial Unit and Fighting Dogs, like those kinds of crusty bands, you know. Both of those bands played our first shows in the same weekend, kind of thing. So, you know, I moved to Philly and started big, and then I just never stopped. So,
did you play the guitar as a kid?
I played guitar. Yeah, I played guitar like starting at 14 years old. Me and Dave learned guitar together. And at the time, I was listening to a lot of Simon and Garfunkel and a lot of like 60s like fingerstyle guitar and folk music. So that's what I learned how to play. But when I moved back to Philadelphia after being in North Jersey for so long, I was playing bass because nobody ever wants to play bass. I'm like, well, I know how to play a guitar. I'm pretty sure it's not that hard. Yeah, everyone needed a bass player at the time, so that's what I did.
That's awesome.
It's fine.
Yeah,
it's cool.
What
it's
gave
funny
you the good?
Well, now I'm more comfortable with bass, but I still play guitar and sing for like I do a solo project now that's just Billy Bragg worship. So it's like electric guitars and singing. That's it. And I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird circuitous route, man. You know what I mean?
Where did the singing come from?
As a kid, that was like the one talent that I had. Like I was bad at sports. I never could skateboard. I couldn't land ollies or anything like that. But I was in choir from church, and then in high school, and then I just never stopped singing. That's always been like my thing. You know?
That's so awesome, man. That's the one talent that I wish that I had. Like even at karaoke, my singing is atrocious. It brings nobody joy. It brings me no joy. It brings nobody joy.
I was about to say, it's about the joy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so there's no joy anywhere. Horrible embarrassment everywhere. It's just people are embarrassed for me. I'm embarrassed for doing it. I picked the longest song possible. It's like, do we need to do Bohemian Rhapsody? Like, can we just, Jesus?
But I could see it killing, though. That's all I'm saying.
All right, good. I appreciate your support. But being a lead singer, and I'm tall. I'm 6'3". So lead singers, frontmen are not that tall. It just doesn't work. You move, it looks very odd. It looks very strange. One of the best I ever saw, like Scott Weiland of Stone Temple Pilots, was like, if he was not the lead singer of a band, I don't think he would have existed. I think he was just born to be a lead singer. And it's part of that being that 5'5", whatever he is, 5'7", whatever he was, but you just move differently up there. Your limbs look more compact, like the way they should. And then you got like me, I'm like a scarecrow, and there's like stuff blown in the wind. Like, why would your arm do that? I'm like, well, it's 3 feet of arm. It has to do something.
I get it.
But luckily, I can't sing. Otherwise, I'd have a shitty punk band going on right now, and I'd be talking about movies on your podcast.
Hey, man, nobody listens. You're welcome to talk movies and punk rock on our show anyway. So whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
It's all good, you know.
Yeah. But I think that's really cool, and get out there, put yourself out there. You write the music, and it's personal, and what you wrote in a dark place, now people are taking. I'm sorry. Do CDs even have linear notes anymore? So like people aren't even getting the message. But for them, they do, right? But I mean, for the most part, you're streaming it. I've been playing on my Alexa the whole time. Some people still get the album. That's great. But this isn't, from the beginning of time until the 2000s when you're like, oh, now everything's just electronically. I'm getting on Napster. I'm getting on LimeWire. But like you could sit there and read everything and be like, oh, I kind of get what he's saying now. Or maybe I see where the darkness of this is. But instead now just one phrase or the hook gets stuck in your head and you just now turned it into whatever you thought it meant.
Yeah.
But I think that's cool though too. That gives it its own life.
It does. So here's a little secret about the good old lyrics for Cross Keys. I write songs about my friends. So Times of Grace is about Grace, who makes the shirts for me. You know what I mean? And Pucho is about my brother, Pucho. And all these songs are about like they're people that I have in mind when I write to them, and it's like even our song about the Trocadero is called Rest in Peace Arch Street. That's a song that my friend Ralph used to work at the Trocadero, and in every show between bands he would read the ad for the bands that were coming up. He'd read them over the loudspeaker, which is why there's a lyric in that song that says and the voice of Ralph comes down from high. And like, it's just funny because like I'll have breakfast with Ralph and be like, yo, I wrote a song, your name's in there. It's totally you. And he's like, oh, me? That's awesome. It's like, yeah. So that's kind of like, it's funny to have like such a depressing record and then think of my friends too. But that's what this one is. So it's pretty funny. It's an interesting hybrid anyway. It's everything I have. You know what I mean? It's all currencies expended. Because like outside of love and sorrow, like what else is there to write about? Right? Like that's kind of where we're at. And the things that I love the most and the things that make me the saddest are often, friends that are there and friends that are gone. So it's a weird thing, I admit it. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing either. I don't even know how I'm going to write the next one, if we're being honest with each other. Cause like, it's like, okay, now what? You know what I mean? Like, well, shit. I look at a blank piece of paper now. I'm like, well, how the fuck did we do this that time? I have no answer.
But isn't it always now what though? Is that kind of the exciting part of it?
It's definitely the edge of the blade. You know what I mean? It's the part that either like cuts the new way or cuts yourself. And to whatever end, it is an entertaining and enticing time. But it's still just like intimidating, especially if people like the shit that you wrote. Like before, no one gave a shit. I've been in 20,000 bands. No one cares about not one of them. Guess what? No pressure to do anything better than that. Just do whatever the fuck you want. So now it's like, oh, everyone likes this shit? Fuck. Like now what? You know what I mean? Like, It's intimidating, but it's also cool. Like whatever, fuck it, man.
Yeah,
Mm.
hey, and so I would say, one thing that's cool though, if you can write a million songs, doesn't mean you have to
Yeah,
record them, doesn't mean you have to release them, and as you're
yeah.
there and, your bandmates better step in and help you out and be like, "Hey, guys, hey, man, I wrote the last one. Like, let's go. Bunch of you around here. Everyone write one. We got 5 albums sitting here. Help us
Dude.
out."
Here's the thing also about cross keys. All the players in that band are so much better at their instruments than I am at mine. You know what I mean? Like Dave is a hell of a shredder. Like he's the guy who does all the lead guitar stuff, and Bo writes a lot of the rhythm stuff. And he's just one of those players that I can't even believe that he's in a band with me. You know what I mean? And then Andrew, who plays bass, that dude has he doesn't play with a guitar pick, so he does the finger style, and he's like way more proficient at bass than I'll ever be. Because I play with a pick and I have to count without looking at anybody because it'll mess me up if I look at them. And then Dave Wagencheese is playing drums. He was in Ink and Dagger. Like what? That's not something that happens to me. You know what I mean? And here we are once a week in this room looking at each other and having the times of our lives. It's still it's everybody in that band is such a good player, and it really is intimidating to try and step in there and be like, okay, let me add my part of the puzzle, But then also it's so encouraging in that we all love and respect each other, and we all like the art that everyone else makes together. So, it's cool. It's cool.
No, I like that, man. I think that's great.
It's funny because this is my second time doing a band with Wags. And the first time he filled in on drums for my hardcore band that I sang for called Halo of Snakes. And he played a couple shows with, we got a show with Rorschach and he played, and a couple other pretty, the bigger shows our drummer at the time couldn't play. And so we would have Wags step in. Just knowing that a person who I've admired and revered for as long as I have respects my artistic capabilities across not one, but 2 projects, that's enough to make me cry if I think about it. You know what I mean? Just because, and then to have that person be one of my very dear friends, it doesn't seem like I deserve it. You know what I mean? It feels like I lied somewhere. So I don't know. It's a thing. It's what it is, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, was it like imposter syndrome or something? Like you feel
Something
like
that.
you personally feel like you don't belong, but everyone else sees that you do, and you're like, man, I'm just faking it here, and that they keep inviting me to this is crazy. And it's not like I got kicked out of the band, but this guy keeps choosing me. We keep getting together in different stuff. Maybe he doesn't know what he's talking about, But this is just the self doubt at you.
I mean,
but is part of that what drives you though too? Is that part of the madness that if you're just happy and loving everything, don't you have to be a tortured soul at some point to get greatness?
So.
Right.
It's part of the trope, at least. I know. All I know is this: it's always the feeling of gasping for air, but knowing that you're not going to drown. You know what I mean? We've created the reason we're even still a band after pandemic is because we're all friends. You know what I mean? And it's because of the love that we share for each other. So then thinking the torture comes in knowing that there's a lot of work between A and B. You know what I mean? But the comfort comes in knowing that I'm not in this alone. You know what I mean? That I'm not just Frodo walking up the mountain. Samwise is with me in the form of these other men that do this with me. So it's a push and pull. I guess it's not as complicated as I'm making it sound. I'm happy to be there. It's the favorite band that I've ever been in. You know what I mean? So, but
and then it's good that as you're going up the mountain and then you start getting chased, you can always push Samwise down and you get away. So that's smart, man. You don't want to do this by yourself.
No, no one does.
You don't have to be the fastest person. You have to be faster than the slowest person or trip them, right? It's
absolutely, man. That's what it is. I don't know, man. It's funny. I mean, I think about it a lot. Is the reality, And again, just getting to play with Hawes. We've been fans of his. He was in Step Ahead with Adolf, and he played in Paint It Black with Wags. He was in The Curse with Bo. The only people that he hasn't been in a band with is me and Andrew. You know what I mean? But I've always loved the Loved Ones. I've loved Step Ahead. I've loved every iteration of his career. So to be able to play with him on a boat, much less that fucking festival in May, what? You know what I mean? It doesn't sound right to me, but it also sounds perfectly right. So yeah, just trying to make peace with it, man.
So I saw him play last August. He played in King of Prussia. So they had like the Twilight Under the Stars or something. It was this like little gazebo behind a police station.
Right.
And I don't know if it's like Twitter or somewhere. So I saw the tickets come up. I reached out to my buddy Dan. I'm like, hey, do you want to go? Let's go check him out. And his wife was gone, so he had the kids. He's like, oh, I can't have the kids. So I'm like, all right, no problem. I started researching a little more, and kids are free. I was, dude, it's like a 6:30 show. Let's go. We'll bring our kids. It's 45 minutes. I'll drive. I'll pick everyone up. Let's go. So we go. We hit Wawa. We're tailgating a little bit. Kids are throwing bean bags. They're having a good time. So we go up there. And it's on this lawn, and it kind of slopes down a little bit. We're back a little bit, and he's up there and he's playing. And so I guess when you buy a season pass though for all these shows, and they'll have all different people of all different genres come through. So some of the people don't appear to be your typical fans, and they've got their lawn chairs and they're sitting down. They're like our mom and dad's age, and he's like, "You guys can get up. You gonna get up?" And this little kid, he's like 3 or 4 years old. He runs over with a play guitar, and he gets kind of close to them, and he's just jamming out, and he's jumping up and down, and he starts running away. And then the end of the song, Dave's like, "Oh, that kid's real cute. He's got a guitar just like my kids do back at home." So next song, he's playing again. More people are getting up, and the kid runs back up there again. He's getting away from the song. He's starting to talk now. He's like, "Hey, what's your son's name?" So the kid's name is Milo. And he's like, "Hey, all right, Milo, come up here and play with us." And now you start seeing like all these like little shadows creeping. All these other little kids are moving forward. And my kids, just my son, and then my buddy's two kids, they're kind of looking at us. I'm like, "Do you want to move a little closer?" So then Hollis is like, "Well, do your kids want to go on stage with us?" And next thing you know, it just floods with all these little kids, and they are just dancing. Like it is the biggest dance party and jamming out. And, Halls and the Mermaid, they're jamming. All these kids just bouncing all around, all of them just running around like maniac. It was so cool. My son is the biggest fan now. Like he didn't know what a concert was. And then like once he started playing, he's like, "Dad, this is what you listen to on the radio." I was like, "Yeah, man, this is a concert." Like that's that guy though, like we hear on the radio. And then he got to go up there and he ended up dancing right next to him. I got a picture of the two of them. And now he's always like, "Oh, Dad, play, play Dave Halls, play this. Oh, play Fireflies. I love this song." So loves it. Just the coolest moment. Cool for him to do that. And like, I think he now has a legion of small fans that are going to grow up. When he's doing the Wachovia Center for $700 a show, these kids are like, "Oh, I'm going. I saw this back in 2022 or whatever it was." I'll be long dead by then, but it was cool.
His first solo show ever after the Loved Ones was at the church here in Philly, at the in the sanctuary, which only seats 60 people. And the very, very first show that Hawes played without a band, I was the opener. And that was also my very first solo show. So I've played a million shows in my time. I've only kept one ticket stub, and that was the one. I have it framed because it was like the beginning of like his like solo career, the beginning of my music. You know what I mean? Like it was one of those like magical nights, and I got to play 2 shows with him. It was, I mean, we've been friends for so long. You know what I mean? That it was like, yeah, like it feels cool. And like now that he's like, huge. Oh, this is some shit, dog. Like biggest rock star we know. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy.
Yeah,
but it's true. Yeah,
that's so fucking cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. Hawes has been one of my heroes for a long time. So,
and that's awesome. He keeps reaching out to you guys. It seems like you're the circle of your bandmates and all staying there in touch with each other. And these opportunities keep popping up, and he keeps leaning on his friends, and that's really cool.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. Righteous brother, that guy.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what do you guys have coming up? So you're going to start working on the new album?
Yeah, we've already started. We started writing on LP3, which is fun. Again, it's like a really different way than other bands write, as far as I understand, just because like I have to be the last piece. So then I have to find a melodic line that balances 2 guitars, a bass, and the world's craziest drummer. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like a lot to kind of find my way. But it's cool. I really enjoy it. And the person who recorded me on Believe in You is Mr. Brian McTernan. Do you know who he is? He was in Battery. He is currently in Be Well. He was in Ashes. And he recorded like all the Hot Water Music stuff. He did all the Voice of Fire stuff. Like he's a pretty big player. You know what I mean? Like the dude's the man. And he recorded all the vocals for this last record. He was like, it was like one of the weirdest and most like mind-bending compliments I've ever received when he's like, nobody does it this way and you make it work really well, which is like Brian McTernan saying this to me. You know what I mean? Like I have this man's lyrics tattooed on my body. I like love his music, and he recorded me. It was just me and him for 5 days, and he had like a lot of things to say about my vocals that made me stronger as a singer, but also as a songwriter. And that was fucking wild. So thinking about like LP3, I'm like, now I have all these different tools with which to get my vocal where it's supposed to be in regards to the whole mosaic, you know what I mean, to make a bigger picture. So I feel more prepared going into LP3. But it's also like that's the currency of your limitations now are buying you things that you're like, oh shit, like, well, we got to do the thing now, you know what I mean? So it's kind of it's intimidating, but I'm ready for it, you know what I mean?
Do you have
But
a
it's
theme
also
that you're going for?
I have
Like a
to
common
start
thread?
writing. The way it's always happened is I read a lot and I take in a lot of media, right? Like I watch a lot of movies, I listen to a lot of records. The biggest thing in terms of like a thematic tie-in for a record is you just got to see where you are, right? So you just have to write. And like sometimes, like I'm the kind of person that will just write. I force myself to write at least 2 lines a day. Most times it's longer than that, but as long as pen touches paper, you have 2 lines, whether or not they're good or whether or not you throw them out. Just do that for the day, every day. That's how things like themes emerge, right? Like you start drawing these lines in your head between all the stuff that you write, and you're like, oh, this is where I am. You know what I mean? And then that's the springboard that gives life to the rest of it. So it's not like I started out being like, this is what it's going to be. You know what I mean? Like, then start putting it together, and that's where we are now, like those preliminary stages. And for the record, that's the best part for me. I love this part. This is my favorite part. You know what I mean? Because it's like the morning of a day that the possibilities are endless now, and you haven't even had your first coffee. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the best time.
So the 2 lines that you're writing, I assume the two are connected, but then the next day, are you trying to build off of what you wrote, or is it just like, what am I thinking now? And yesterday could develop into one song and today could develop into another? Or do you just, what is that?
No rules. Whatever
rules.
happens, happens. Yeah. So you could keep
It's
on
truly
writing
Fast and the Furious right here, man. No rules.
Yeah, man. Got to.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's really funny is that Hard Turf, my hardcore band that I play bass in, we're writing now too for the next batch of songs. And it's been 2 years since I've been playing solo, but now I played a show 2 weeks ago, and I have another one coming up in 2 weeks, and it's like that's starting up again now too. So now I'm writing for solo stuff as well. So I kind of feel like it's feast or famine, right? Like there are times when you're just like, I don't even have the energy to put paper to pen, but then there are other times where all my projects are working at the same time. So now I'm writing songs for 3 different projects right now. You know what I mean? So it's like right now I feel powerful. I feel in my strength. I feel like this is the closest that I'm going to get between the distance from the inside of my atmosphere to the outside world, So fuck it, man. Just keep playing, keep writing, and keep making stuff because that's what we do. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I know. I definitely think it does. Have you ever covered in like cross keys? Have you ever covered like one of the hardcore songs you did and tried to adjust it into something different? Or that's just
Cross Keys has an approach to writing that is very antithetical to the hardcore aggressiveness, and that's like okay. So trying to get a cover song that all 5 of us can agree on is impossible. Nobody wants to play what everybody else wants, and I think that's what makes the palette of Cross Keys really interesting. That everybody comes from different backgrounds, right? Like Andrew went on tour with Real Big Fish, like he was in Zoloft the Rock and Roll Destroyer, so he got to tour with like all these like super huge pop bands. Wags was in Good Riddance, you know what I mean? He was in Kid Dynamite, and Dave was in another band called Jackie Thousands. He was in Step Ahead. Like everybody's influences are so different that there isn't even one band that I think that we all like. Maybe this is weird to say, but it's true. So
if you guys are all coming from, so how do you find your sound if everyone's coming from a different angle, or is that the beauty of it?
It's kind of the beauty of it. It's just like the weird shirts. Like they all just kind of get it's. I have this thing where I keep on stumbling upwards, and I kind of.
Oh man, I hear you. My whole life, man, failing upwards is like
totally what it is. You know what I mean? And it's like the Cross Keys songs are the same exact way. Someone will come up with a thing, and the next thing you know, like a whirlwind, it all just kind of starts packing around that central idea, and then the lyrics come last. But yeah, that's just how we. It's interesting to think that we have a sound. But here we are, you know what I mean? Like kind of a sad Jawbreaker or a happier Leatherface. I don't know which one. Like I've heard it described in many ways, and that's probably the funniest way I've heard it.
Depends on the day, right?
Yeah, yeah, you're not wrong.
So you need to find like your George Michael faith and then do the Limp Bizkit version, but like in reverse. So find
Yeah.
something hard and then just try to soften it a little bit. And then people are like, wait, I know this song. What is this?
Why am I crying and fighting at the same
Yeah,
time? Yeah, that's kind of what it's at.
exactly. Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
I don't
awesome.
know. It
So,
is an interesting time.
yeah. So as we're wrapping up, let's get a little weird here. I'm not going to get into like aliens or Bigfoot or anything unless you want to. But let's talk about like synchronicities or something like that. It seems that a lot of your band and even yourself, you played with a bunch of guys, you know, a bunch of different guys, and it's created opportunities. And all these opportunities so far are pushing you forward. And you seem very happy right now. And you're saying that, you know,
Mhm.
for some reason, Cross Keys is hitting off more than other bands you guys have been in.
Mhm.
Do you subscribe to any, not that like everything's predetermined, you know, like the Terminator, fate is what you make or whatever. But
Yeah.
do you believe in like a unified consciousness of some sort that this is all pushing you in one direction? Is this the way it's supposed to be? Are you just failing upwards?
I don't know, man. I mean, like for me, it's just I'm a staunch existentialist, which any Filipino person of a certain age was raised super Catholic, and I'm the same. You know what I mean? Especially from Cherry Hill. So there was always this like religious overtone to every single thing that we ever did. And the end result of that is eschewing the entire thing. I was just being like, fuck all of this. And that's kind of where I'm at, right? Like I believe that when I die, it's all just star beams and moon dust, right? And whether or not there was a point for any of this to begin with, I'll never know. So I don't really see the point in wondering if there is a point. You know what I mean? Like kind of like Occam's razor. Like there is no reason. There is no way to figure out if life has a meaning, so you might as well just live. And that's kind of where I'm at. You know what I mean? Like I don't believe that if I can tell you for a fact that being nice to crazy people for 20 years gets you bullshit. I can tell you 100% without a doubt in my mind that that has garnered me no type of currency in any way other than monetary, and no one cares. So, you know, for whatever
Maybe it's
that's
just in
worth.
reserves. It's going to cash out soon. You just never know.
Yes, Doug, after I got fired from the hospital, I got a job as an overnight cashier in a casino because I was like, I don't want to go back into healthcare. And did the good Lord put me there? Maybe, maybe, or definitely, depending on your definition. Did I feel any type of spiritual trail that led me there? No, none of it matters. All of it sucks. That's just what it is. Make peace with that, and hey, you're good. I do believe in the Jersey Devil, though.
We'll be
That's
back
the
in a second. What casino were you working at?
live in South Philly.
Oh, okay. I worked at Harrah's in Philadelphia, and then out Chicago, I worked at two casinos, and then
No
one in
shit.
Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Holy, what were you, a dealer?
No, I started off as a slot supervisor in Harrah's, Philadelphia, and then my wife graduated nursing school, couldn't really get a job around here, and so she was like, "Oh, do you want to go to Chicago?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's go." And I was pretty sure I reached out to them. They weren't hiring anybody. Like you could always be a dealer, you could be a slot attendant. And
Yeah.
it's funny because slot attendants, they get tips, they call them tokes, and they're
Mm.
basically guaranteed. Like they can basically tell you what you're going to get every week. And it took me for a long
Yeah.
time to understand what that was. And like, I'm like, all right, so my base is like $12 an hour. Like I need to make more than that. Like that, I need like no, and like plus your tokes is 19. It's $30 an hour. I was like, no one's making $30, but like they were.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I got to Chicago, and they were going to let me be an executive host, but I was only
What?
like 80% sure that I had that job. But I went out there and then I interviewed, then they took me on. And there's no big. This was Joliet, so the Joliet prison that Jake and Elwood escaped from. Like
Yeah.
I would drive past that, and there's no big shots go into Joliet, and so you're just talking to it. It was actually kind of sad, where you'd get like a book of old business, like oh try to drum this back up, and I'm calling an old lady, and she's like oh well my husband died, and then I used all his pension money, and told me this, and now I have no money left at all. And I'm like, well, all right, well, great. You come in, I have a free buffet for you. And like, they come back to my boss. I'm like, what the fuck, man? This is this is terrible. It's like predatory lending. And then Chicago opened Rivers Casino in Des Plaines. So it used to be you have to be in Illinois, you had to be on the river. So the Joliet one was a riverboat attached to like
Whoa.
through a dock. So all the games were on water, and they built like a building around it, so you really didn't realize you were on water. And then I guess somebody actually read the law, and it was like if a trickle of a stream goes through, you can build a casino. So there was in the maintenance room, there was a little glass part on the floor. You could see the stream going through. And then every once in a while, gaming would come through and they'd have to check and make sure the stream was still flowing. So yeah, that was crazy. So in Chicago, I was a supervisor again of the slots. So I just went back to slot supervisor, then went to Pittsburgh and got promoted to slot manager. And then I made to executive director or whatever of marketing. And I did that for about 4 months, but then my wife was pregnant. And pretty much every time you start getting up that high, you get promoted, you need to move to a different property. I was like, well, I'm not going to move around across the country all the time. And then a new GM comes in, they replace all those top people anyway, bring their buddies in. And it's like, well, I'm not going to be fucking jobless in Arizona. As crazy as that worked out for you, I was like, well, I don't write songs, man. I'm not going to be fucking jobless out there.
I get it, dude.
Yeah.
That's
I don't miss working overnights. I don't miss working overnights. I don't miss, but there are so many times I just miss that excitement of there's never a dull day. You can always find something to get into or some crazy person to talk to or just listen to crazy people argue. Like it is nuts. That was
it's
fun.
a wild life, man. Yeah, I worked in the cage. I was a cashier, overnight cashier.
Yeah.
Which is not where you want to find yourself at 45. You know what I mean? But hey, what are you going to do? But my question to you is, do you feel that any type of supernatural or any type of predestined, clandestine like path led you through all of this?
So I don't know about predestined. So I would listen to Duncan Trussell's Family Hour podcast a lot. And he was talking about it or someone else was, and he talked about like soul families. So it would be that I truly believe that the people in my life that I'm close to, that I truly love, that we're meant to be together. And now like in future lives, as like, do our roles change or whatever it might be? Like, I think that makes me happy. That like brings me peace. Now, do I think that God or the great being in the sky wanted me to go to Camden County College for like 7 years? Like, I don't think that was in his big plan to like, dude, you should be a doctor, not like just trying to finish your associate's degree. Just so I can finish the classes. I don't think any part of that was like a predestined plan. I think it was actually only 5 years. It took me 7 to finally get my bachelor's degree. A lot of people are called doctor after 7 years. I was not one of them. But yeah, I never feel the strong force pushing me. I do get a lot of excitement out of doing this. I think it's like a great opportunity. I think the internet, I'm not smart enough in the .com boom to invent whatever Mark Cuban did to become a billionaire. That's kind of past me. TikTok, like beyond me. Like I have no idea how any of that shit works. For this thing to blow up to like Rogan numbers would be a miracle. But hey, somebody wants to give me, CIA is listening. I'm sure you guys are. You guys want to buy me off and have me as an asset? I'm here for sale. Do not worry. Fair prices too. You can get a sale discount. But this gives me excitement. But do I think it's driven by a higher being? I don't know. I'm still waiting on that. But I've been very fortunate in my life. I said failing upwards. Relatively smart person, but it's always left foot, right foot, and luckily things have just kept working out and opportunities have come out, or I've helped the right people that then help me back in return. It's like, okay, great, but that's also kind of life, though, isn't it? Like if you're a good person, like good shit happens.
If you resonate on a good frequency, then that's kind of the music you're playing in, right? Like here's the funny thing. So do you know that Liam, who does Cinepunks with me, he went to school to be a pastor?
Really?
Yeah, he has 2 degrees in like divinity and like I forget, they're like masters. He has 2 master's degrees in things like spirituality. And he's probably one of the smartest people I know. But the funniest thing about it is that he is now not religious at all. And he's not he's more like believes in like the causes of like, radical abolition, like this kind of like philosophy where it makes a difference. But he's not like, he goes to church because his wife is also a pastor, but he also is one of the people that I know is like, when I talk about this kind of stuff with these clandestine designs, are we just participating in them or are we the prime movers in these things? And Liam he's one of those people that I don't think he blames God or praises God for all the things that have happened in his life. And that's such a crazy thing to me, that the most religious people I know are often the ones who fall out of divinity or any type of like religious like calling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now, as I've gotten older, I grew up in the Catholic Church and it's creationism. Like there's no Darwinism. And even then I'm like, this is fucking stupid. Like we evolved from monkeys and all this stuff. And now as I get older, I like revert back I'm like, well, if we're all evolving, where's the half ape, half man person that's in the middle of evolving right now? Where's the fish
Mm.
that's walking on land that just got lungs? Like, so that we just stopped
Right.
evolving? Or maybe, like, again, like, I have a lot of stoner thoughts for not smoking weed, and it's been a long time, but there's a lot of fucking stoner thoughts going on. But, like, where are these, like, half
Thing.
evolved animals that,
Well,
you know,
then,
if we,
I mean, so then, I don't know. There's a lot of questions about it, but go on, go on.
but that's just my big question, though. If we evolved from monkeys, so we all came from
Yeah.
from the slime, and, like, my cat is from that same slime, and we just diverged. Like, that just makes no sense to me.
Well, I mean, but then there's still analogous structures. Like there's still the same amount of vertebrae in each creature. There's still amount of like the same like phalanges and like all the other like tiny like minutia that turns into different things. But it's like I think about it the way I think about plant roots. So you know about like the taproot. It's the cells at the very tip of the taproot is called a meristematic cell, which means that it's not determined for what direction it will be. You don't know if it's going to be phloem. You don't know if it's going to be xylem. You don't know if it's going to be cellulose. Like it just could be anything. And the same cells are found at the very top of the tree, at the top of the branches. So then, if that type of analogousness can exist at both the bottom and the top of a plant, then it only makes sense to me that the perpetual adjusting to the environment, adjusting to light exposure, adjusting to like how much rainfall, how much water and stuff that's what determines what these cells turn into. So then the fact that there's analogous structures throughout multiple species, to me, like whales have the same amount of phalanges as people. They're just in fin form, right? So like you still have like this many metatarsals, this many, et cetera, et cetera. At least that's what I remember from being a science teacher. It's been a long fucking time, man. I don't know. Maybe
You
I'm
could have
wrong.
kept going. It's not, like half the words. I'm like, yeah, man, of course.
Guys, that's just
But
what I
if
think.
they're all
Like,
the same numbers, though, like that's also points to design, though. Like somebody's just going like, hey, that's 33, whatever it is here, and like we'll just do 4 on all these. You know,
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of different species of everything. It just seems like it would have taken a super long time for
yeah,
everything. But like, so everything got wiped out, what, like 12, 15,000 years ago? Like there was another great ice age. So
okay,
like all this stuff
yeah.
just came back in like 12,000 years. Again, I don't have a lot
So
going
then,
here. I talk to people about lizard
wait,
people,
wait.
so like I don't know.
So so is it Jesus? Did God do it?
No, so I'm in. I don't know, man. Are we in base reality? I have no idea. Is this the Matrix?
Yeah.
Like it could be.
No fucking
Is
clue. Yeah.
is God Pindar the Lizard King? Hey, it could be. I don't know. Does the moon suck our soul back, and like the light that you're going to is really to get sucked
That,
back into
yeah.
Earth, and they're sucking our energy out? I don't know. I hope not.
Yeah.
I like to think, you know, as shitty as the world is for some people, it's also a beautiful place, and you know, sunsets and all these other things, and feelings, and family and love. Is there? Is it Jesus? I don't know. But then you look at some of the history stories, and the story of Jesus is repeated thousands of years beforehand.
Mhm.
But that's come from something, though. So I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm
either.
out there
All I
on it.
know
But
is that
go ahead.
my grandma was the most wonderful person in my entire life, my whole life. And she just passed maybe 2 years ago. But she loved the church. Like this woman is the reason that I was raised the way that I was, that I went to youth groups instead of like whatever else. And like, whether or not Jesus exists or religion in this like Judeo-Christian dogmatic like approach is a thing, the one thing that I do know without a doubt is that I love my grandma. So if that's religion, then it's real. You know what I mean? And I know that she loved me. So it's like if God or if Jesus or if Yahweh or whatever else type of definition is your thing, if that can be attributed to something as ethereal and yet as grounded as a grandparent's love for their grandchild, then who am I to say that it's not a thing? You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck that. Like, I do know, that my grandma loved me. And I know that I'm a good person because of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And
So,
I think, so I think religion is good, but a lot of bad things have been done in the name of religion. And that's because, you know, people have faults. Right.
Yeah.
But in general, and again, the original message, we don't know because I wasn't there when it was written. And I'm reading it today and people are like, no, this is what was written. But I'm sure somebody probably edited the book to make themselves more important at some point and added some other crap in there. But in general, the golden rule, a lot of the things taught in the Bible, the Christian Bible, for the most part, maybe that's the only Bible, I don't know, but the Bible, it just tells you to be a good person. Like, don't be a dick. Be nice to your neighbor. Help when you can. Help when you can't. Be nice. And if you do that, good things are going to come back. And if people believe in Jesus for that, I don't think, they should. So the people who are anti-religion, I think that's fine too. Like, you can sit here and say, hey, this whole world's crazy. I believe in the Matrix. That's fine.
Right.
I don't think you should mock somebody. I think if your belief requires knocking somebody down, I think that's more a problem than just saying, like, you believe in a lizard person, you believe in Jesus, you believe in nothing. Like, okay, but like, are you a good person? I don't know if that was even a question or a statement. I don't know.
No, I get it. It's your rhetorical question. I'm with it, man. It's just, it's so difficult though, right? Because, think about like the attacks on LGBTQ plus populations now. Think about things like the drag ban. Like, these things are all of religious edict. And you're going to make makeup illegal? You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like ridiculous to me. And then it's going to be like a lot of Judeo-Christian teachings that I've been raised with has been very exclusatory. You know what I mean? Like, it's always been like white Jesus, it's always been don't be gay and all this since I was a kid, and it's like, I have friends that are drag queens that are better people than most of the people that I know. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how is like that going to be a thing? It bums me out. And of course you want to take the things that make life palatable. You want to take the things that like give you purpose and all that other stuff. And I understand it. But also, when these very things are the things that are choking the life out of vulnerable populations, you know what I mean? Like, so many people were like super like, talking about religion and being anti-abortion and all that. But then we would work with skeleton crews serving the sick and the poor in a psych hospital. You know what I mean? It was like 4 people to serve 24 people on a floor that can't leave. So if the religious purpose is to help people, then why are the helping fields so missing of people? You know what I mean? Like, think about the teacher deficit right now. They don't have enough people to teach the next generations. You know what I mean? Like, so then the whole thing gets like tied up in bureaucracy and just capitalism and just whatever else bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, it's too much to consider anymore.
Yeah.
So
it's all funding.
Yeah. Like, working in the hospital, I came down to understand this. You're either waiting for your luck to run out or you're waiting for your money to run out. And in a lot of cases, that's the same moment. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, man. What are you going to, like, how am I supposed to, like, live this devotional life to some type of prime mover when the things in motion are not being addressed in a way that is productive by people who purport, like, this philosophy? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. All I know is that, like, I had to take people to, like, fucking dentist appointments, and people would always, like, be mad that I'd be there with these, like, psych patients and stuff. But it's like, well, this whole world is Christian en masse. How come there isn't this whole push towards this more equitable, more accepting, and more helping tonality to our society?
It's all the NIMBY, it's like, just keep that over there, and I don't want it in my backyard. Like, I want to give Sally Struthers my money for coffee every day, and you just make sure, just handle it over there, and I don't want to see it over here.
Don't want to get my hands dirty with it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And that's where the real work is, right? Where the wheel meets the road, where the shovel hits the ground. Like, that's where the help is needed. And I put in my time, but I'm fucking done. I hate being done, but I don't have anything else. You know what I mean?
You're giving it a different way, so that, but you did your time, that's fine, and now you're giving it a different way, and now that's someone else's turn to come up and do that. But you can't be Mother Teresa and live a destitute life and just give, and like, that was great for her, but hey, I don't know, maybe if everybody did that, we're in a better world or whatever. But I mean, you have family of other people you need to take care of and give that energy to and help, and you have people listening to your music, and that helps them, and people you don't even know or like listen to your shit, and they're like, oh man, that song means so much to me, and you probably will never meet them, and like, that's just fucking crazy too. Like, there's this Brian Fallon song that he sings solo, and so I have a daughter too, and she's like, oh, can I have a book written about me? Like, it's so easy. Sure, daughter, like, let me just go write a book for you. But so I'm like, okay, maybe I can do one for her and make it a little science fiction-y. So Brian Fallon has a song about shit. The name of it's escaping me right now. But he walks past a woman and he's like, "Have we met before? Or haven't we? Or like we just destined to meet in time?" And somewhere within that song is the book that I'm going to write, but I just can't crack that. But this guy has no idea that that song like eats at me every day. Then I'm like, you know, just talk like, "Oh, do we just meet on a mystery train?" Or it's like, oh, like somewhere in there,
Yeah.
there's this like this Spider-Verse type of thing of, you know, am I supposed to meet you? Am I supposed to walk by? Am I, you know? So it's not that predestined, predetermined thing. But so I definitely think there's people you're supposed to meet. That, you know, there's people in your family you sit down and at Thanksgiving and, you know, they're nice and you love them and they're your family, but there's not a lot to talk about. And then there's other people you just meet on the street and then you're having 2, 3, 4 hour conversation. You guys are laughing all the same jokes, you know, all the same shit. And it's just like, how the fuck? And I'm never going to see you again probably, and just keep walking by and you're like, how fucking weird was that this person has left a mark on me, and then this other person that I see all the time, that we have the same people we can talk about or same memories, or hey, you remember Christmas '05? Like none of it clicks anywhere. It's fucking weird, man.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. I don't know. The one thing I've learned after 45 years of being on this earth is that there's no more an important moment than the one that you're in. And whoever walks in on that moment, that's where you got to find the magic. That's where you got to find the music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And whatever happens, happens, man.
The Brian Fallon song is called "You Have Stolen My Heart," and within that somewhere, yeah. But if you're not present, yeah, that's some within there. That is the book. That if I can just need to crack that code, it's in there somewhere. But it's a beautiful song, and it's also really trippy and fucking weird. And, but if you're not appreciating the current moment and you're waiting for the next moment, like you're missing out on a lot of life, I think. And
yeah,
you know,
I don't know. I think you're pretty cool, man. I believe in you. I'm sure you could find 100 stories in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but just get that 200-page mark. I think if it was, maybe I'll do a short story one. I'll go the Stephen King route and write her 4 pages and be like, hey, here you go. Go turn into a miniseries.
Here's your story. Prepare to be famous, young lady.
Just don't show it to Josh. He hates miniseries.
Yeah, it's true.
That's it.
Oh man.
But hey, man, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
what do you have
coming? I hope I didn't run my mouth too much. You know, whenever we do sit up, Liam talks way more than I do, so I'm always like, really? That's the thing. And now it's like when Liam's not here, I'm just running the mouth.
You're just waiting to get the words in. He doesn't let you do it. And now here you go. But all right, plug what you have. Come on, tell us the good stuff. Where can we find you? What's coming up? What's going on?
Well, we got a bunch of shows coming up. I'm playing at Primary on the 23rd of July, a Sunday. It's a 4:00 show with Mr. Popeye Vogelsang, who used to sing for a band called Farside, who currently sings for Calling Hours, and with my friend Rusty Pigeon. And it's going to be at Primary Plant-Based, a vegan restaurant right on Girard. It's going to be $10 at the door. There's no pre-sale tickets. There's no ticket link or event page. You show up at the gig with $10, and if there's room, you'll get in. And if not, sorry. But it's going to be cool. Yeah, man, it's very street level. So, but it's cool, man. And there's going to be food specials. It's a vegan restaurant. So if you're vegan, guess what? You're going to have a hell of a party. If not, the food's still pretty good. So that's coming up. And then we're playing this weekend. Crosskeys is playing in Asbury Park at the Trinity Church with Born Tired, with Town Liar, and with Jonathan Francis, he's bringing with a whole band. So he's like a singer-songwriter guy that plays with a band on this one. So that's coming up. And then, like you said, we're playing that show in New York, which I hope to meet you in person at. That'll be a hell of a time. I don't have any control over any guest lists or anything like that. But, you know, because again, I don't do any of that. I just write the songs and sing. But that's coming up with Hawes and the Mermaids. So that's going to be cool. And then we're playing in Ambler next month at the skate park, The Yard. And that's with the Great American Typewriter and Been Better and Omit All. There's a bunch of shit coming up, man. I don't know. Just follow all the stuff on the socials and you'll pretty much be on top of all.
Go find them on the socials, but you're not replying to anybody. You're not tweeting.
No, yeah, you're talking to Andrew, just so you know. But it's at Crosskeys PHL is the Twitter handle and the Instagram handle. On Instagram, I'm Joey Angel. That's stupid. And yeah, I don't know. All the stuff's in there, man.
I'll put all the links in the show notes. People will find you. But I really appreciate it. If I can't make it out to New York City, I'm going to make it out to the September 1, and that's going to be really fucking awesome. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what the band does. I wish you guys nothing but success. You're friends of the program now, so if you, whatever you guys tweet out, I'll help you try to push the message, and we'll crowdsource the information and try to get as many people to your shows as possible.
Thank you so much, man.
Hey, no problem. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, this is really fun, Brian. I enjoyed myself very much. Thanks
Open door. Come back whenever you want. New LP is done. Let's get on here and hear about it.
All right, man. Sounds good.
All right. You have a great night. I'll talk to you.
Take it easy.
Take care. Thanks. All right, everyone. That was our show. Don't forget to leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast. Like and follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram to stay up to date in all things wild and weird. Check out the links in the show notes for more information on our guests. The biggest support you can offer is to tell everyone about the podcast. Until next time.